Some people call this a weak safety class, and when I hear that, I think to myself, they're not wrong. But that doesn't mean it's all bad. While it may look like a ton of coal, I assure you that some of that coal will turn to diamonds. But today we're going to talk about the top 10 safeties in the 2024 NFL Draft. At number 10, I have Malik Mustapha out of Wake Forest, coming in at 6'10", 206 pounds, and he was initially a zero-star recruit coming out of high school. And I do want to note that his final year in high school, he had 4 blocked kicks. So yes, the special teams experience is there, but he was a zero-star recruit, went to Richmond, but they canceled the season because of Rona, and he was like, well, crap, dude. I want to play somewhere. Did play a game in the spring season, but decided to go to Wake Forest. And he became a starter in 2022. And then in 2023, he was a second team All ACC. And it's easy to see why. Because he is a bat out of hell coming downhill. He is actually a pretty solid athlete, a very good straight line athlete. I mean, just look at his vert 41.5, his broad jump 126 inches. Yeah, the dude is explosive as hell coming downhill, and he's shown the ability as a blitzer to shoot gaps and do so quickly. But also, you look at the upstairs, like his ability to diagnose a play, and he just reads and reacts quickly, combines that with really good short area quicks, and he makes plays in both run support and in coverage. And very good mover, can play sideline to sideline. Has shown the versatility to really play any defensive back position, though I kind of like him best in the box, in the slot. And he has a real nose for the football. Truly does a great job in run support, getting off blocks, maneuvering traffic, and has shown a really good tackling technique. However, he does have a bit of aggressive nature because he comes in like a freaking heat-seeking missile, and that has led 2 missed tackles. His missed tackle rate, 16.5% over the course of his career. Not a terrible number, but it's kind of in that let's try to hone that sucker in. And I will say he is a better athlete coming up than he is going back. He is a little bit sloppy out of his back pedal. And just doesn't really get the most when turning and having to run with pass catchers. Does lack ideal height and ideal length for the position, so you kind of worry that maybe, I don't know, bigger targets will get the best of him, or more physical targets will get the best of him in man-to-man coverage. So you try to keep away from those situations. But immediately when you watch this tape, you think Mike Edwards, this guy that is just flying around the field looking to create a car crash. That just kind of really sums up Malik Mustapha. At number 9, I have Ryan Watts out of Texas, coming in at 6'3", 208 pounds. And the interesting thing about Watts is he's never really played safety during his collegiate career. He was initially recruited by Ohio State, where he mainly played special teams, and that's going to be a big perk of him, is he's got a ton of special teams experience. But he transfers to Texas, where he's played corner primarily the last 2 seasons. But he showed a willingness to take reps at safety during the Shrine, and ultimately I think that's where he lands, because he's a very good athlete and he brings very rare length for the position. Now, I'm not just talking about corner, but also for safety with 34.5-inch arms. And it's just what he does in run defense, which leads me to think, this guy can play safety. He's very good in the box. He maneuvers traffic very well, and he's been a very solid finisher, as he had a 2.5 missed tackle rate this past season. But I mean, if you want to give him a go at corner, I think that makes sense as well. I mean, I list his role as split high safety or off coverage corner, which might puzzle you, right? Because you're like, okay, well, hold up. Like, he's got great length. Why would you want that in off coverage? And I would say, like, in press, he's just shown not to really want to put hands on the receiver, which is kind of weird, kind of wild. You would think you would want to utilize that and whatnot and take advantage of that length. And I honestly think he's probably just better in zone coverage in general. So moving him to safety, you're going to have him dropping back into zone coverage quite a bit, but also He's going to be manning up on tight ends and running backs, and you're not going to do that right there at the line of scrimmage anyway. So again, the move to safety makes all the more sense, but he is a very good athlete, very good. You see the explosive numbers, phenomenal. The agility numbers are really good as well. Has never really showcased ball skills during his career, and maybe that could change if you put him in the middle of the field where you're going to see the most action in terms of the passing game in the NFL. So like Watts, he's a very interesting case. And when you go back and like kind of look at his metrics, look at just how he tested, a lot of it is very reminiscent of Chuck Clark, especially when it comes to what he can do in the run game. So I'm probably going to be a bit higher on Ryan Watts just because of the potential, opposed to like what we've seen thus far on tape compared to maybe the general draft community. But man, watch out. Like I think Watts could be a name in a couple of years and we're like, wow, man, yeah, should have just trust the tools. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always. Technically, it's a Google spreadsheet. So send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals. And guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. At number 8, I have Dominique Hampton out of Washington, coming in at 6'2", 215 pounds. And he's a very similar prospect, at least in terms of size and athleticism, to Ryan Watts. And I mean, he's only one spot higher on my board. But the difference is we've seen him play safety. He's been a starter the last 2 years for Washington. And you would look at that build and be like, man, he's got a lot of speed. This is a guy we could probably play deep if we want to. But you go to the tape and he is truly, and I mean truly, at his best around the line of scrimmage. I mean, when he lines up in the slot, he is very comfortable on press. He uses his length exceptionally well to mess up the timing of routes. And he's just a fluid athlete. He's a long strider, so he could turn and run with guys. He's a very solid tackler, uses that length to get a clean wrap up. And on top of that, he's one of the hardest hitters in this class, man. He just has a skill set that works so well in the box. I don't think you want to take him away from that. Now, some of the things that I noticed and why I kind of like, I don't think him, being kind of like the center fielder is going to quite work is downfield. He's kind of late to read and react, and he's kind of aided. I mean, you can even see this actually when he's lined up in the box or in the slot. Sometimes he can be late to read and react, and he's kind of bailed out by that athleticism, that quickness, those long strides. And you notice it a bit more deep because you don't see him really turn his head around to make a play on the football. Like, quite honestly, most of his ball skills, those pass breakups and those interceptions, they come when he is come in downhill. Pause, phrase it. But regardless, I really do think he saw the most ball production when he was mainly aligned in the box. He's just much better working downfield and downhill, And I see a lot of Rashawn Jenkins in his game when he got that bigger money contract from the Jags. I mean, that's what they were looking at. They were looking at like, hey man, this is one of the better box guys in the NFL who creates splash plays and coverage. And I think Hampton probably end up being a better athlete. And again, this is another guy that I just look at the tools, and honestly, now at this point, like a better case based on what he put on film than Ryan Watts. But you look at those tools and you're gonna be like, I'm willing to bet on those, especially in this safety class. That, I mean, let's be honest, let's be frank, it's kind of a whatevs safety class. At number 7, I have Calen Bullock out of USC, coming in at 6'2", 188 pounds. And I truly believe that there are a top 7 safeties undisputedly in this class, and then it's kind of everybody else. I think these next 7 guys are top 100 picks, with Bullock currently at 100, but he is kind of probably the best true center fielder in this class. He's a guy that just has a nose for the football, had 7 pass breakups this past year with 2 interceptions. I mean, you look at over the course of his career, I mean, this is a guy that just had his hands all over the football, and he's a pretty darn good athlete. Kind of wish he tested out a little bit better, but you see the movement skills on tape. He has probably among the best range in this class. He accelerates pretty darn quickly to get where he needs to be, and he can honestly pick up receivers at the top of their route and effectively mirror them for the remainder of the play. No problem. I don't care how fast they are. And he plays a hell, and I mean a hell of a lot bigger than that 188 size. And he plays with actually a sense of physicality. He likes to get his nose just all up in the action. He'll come in like a heat-seeking missile. You don't care if you're a tight end, if you're a big power back. He'll hit you all the same, man. And while that aggressive style, it's not going to translate as well in the NFL. Like, it's going to lead to a bit more broken tackles. It's nice to see that he doesn't have like this big missed tackle rate. I mean, you go back to 2022, 6.9% missed tackle rate. This year it was up at 13.5, but I think you are going to have to kind of reel in and teach him to tackle a bit better, give him a bit better technique. He can't just come in and like low cut and try to hit these guys his lower body like a heat-seeking missile, because at his size it's just not gonna go down that way in the NFL. But he does have a frame that enables him to put on more mass. So again, I'm kind of not worried about that. I really expected his vertical numbers to be better, like his explosive numbers to be better. Like mainly the vert. I thought he was going to get close to like 40 inches, and he comes in with 33. And like, man, because like you see this guy contest catches all day. Like his leaping ability seems so much better. He's got good length for the position. So I feel like I'm going to kind of roll with what I've seen on film when it comes to that, and not really be like, oh, his vert time was so bad, I got to drop him because his vert wasn't that good at all. Nah, I'm just going to trust what I saw on tape for the most part. But outside of putting on mass, fixing his tackling technique, there are times where he just takes poor angles in coverage. Like you'll kind of see this on the intermediate to deep parts of the field, where he just kind of obstructs his ability to leverage and get to the catch point. Like he kind of lets receivers be able to get probably the best positioning when it comes to like passes down the field. And he really has to kind of like have to fight through contact. And we're talking about a guy that, he needs to put on more mass. He probably needs better play strength. That's kind of not the position you want to see him in. I mean, at the end of the day, though, this if you're looking for a center fielder, if you have a scheme that kind of like, hey, we need that guy, this is your guy. He truly is. At number 6, I have Kamren Kinchens out of the U, baby, the U, my Hurricanes. He's coming in at 5'11", 203, and first things first, we got to acknowledge that this past year has been very underwhelming for Kamren Kinchens, but there's no denying the ball skills. The guy has a legit nose for the big play, 11 interceptions over the last 2 seasons. But this year, we saw a lot more coverage busts. We know he kind of plays with this high risk, high reward mentality. I mean, you could point to the final play of the Georgia Tech game on the Hail Mary. You could point to a couple of instances against North Carolina where I think it was Tez Walker, actually, both times, that just kind of beat him deep. And he just doesn't have the athleticism to make up for missteps. He's kind of got to be almost perfect. But the anticipation, the instincts, they're there. But you want to kind of remove those coverage busts just because overall he's an okay athlete, not a high-end athlete. And I mean, that was confirmed at the combine with his testings being like, nah. You go to the Senior Bowl where he didn't really stick out too much. Didn't really stand out. And yeah, there's these obvious concerns with him. But I mean, you go back to the tape, you still see a hell of a player who has those ball skills, who comes downhill with a head of steam and isn't afraid of laying a lick. Though sometimes I talk about him being out of position in coverage, is sometimes he'll be out of position in run support and just doesn't take the good angles, and his how he finishes his tacklers kind of like fine. Like his missed tackle rate was really bad in 2022. It was about 20%. This past season, that was down to 13.7%, so it's better, but still meh. But I really like this cat in maybe like a split high offense. Like I don't think you can make him a center fielder, at least at this juncture, until those instincts get much better. Because I mean, then you're just asking for coverage busts. And I mean, it's very similar to like Andre Cisco when he was coming out of Syracuse, where it was a player that's like, man, he's very high risk, high reward, a lot of ball skills, but a lot of just blown assignments in coverage. However, Andre Cisco was a very fast athlete. He was kind of a big difference. Honestly, Andre Cisco is kind of a nice comp. It's just slower Andre Cisco. Instead, I settled for Trey Boston. It's kind of like my go-to comp for shorter guys who kind of play with a high risk, high reward mentality in the secondary and the safety room. But I'm actually kind of thinking I like the slower Andre Cisco a little bit better. But I mean, I still believe in Kamren Kinchens. I'd still be willing to take him. Probably more so like third round is kind of solid area. I don't know if I'd go for him in the second. But I mean, I'm still a fan here. Quite literally, Hurricanes fan. So. At number 5, I have Cole Bishop out of Utah, coming in at 6'2", 206 pounds. And he was initially just a 3-star recruit coming out of the 2021 class. But by the end of his freshman season, he was the starter there. And then he proceeded to start the next 2 years for Utah. He was a second team All Pac-12 this past season. And I just love the nasty demeanor, hard-hitting, physical, aggressive nature of Bishop. Like he comes down a hill like a freaking semi, and he hits like a semi. At least it looks like it. Golly. Now that aggressive nature does lend itself to missed tackles sometimes. In 2022, he had a 17.7 missed tackle rate. This past year it was better. It was 13%. But you do worry about that aggression on top of a lack of length. Can he be a sure tackler? Can he wrap up like successfully? But I'm not too worried about that. Also, with the lack of length, you're going to worry about can he match up against bigger, more physical pass catching options. But his trigger is so quick. He read and reacts so quick. His ability to diagnose a play, understand route recognition and route concepts. It's all quick, and he's able to get to the catch point a lot of times to contest that catch fairly quickly. So I'm not too worried about the length showing up in coverage, as long as you're working him downhill, because he is honestly at his best working downhill. I mean, just look at him as a blitzer. 2022, he had 21 pressures, 2 sacks. This past season, 12 pressures, 3 sacks. The guy can go and get after it. Now, much faster athlete than I anticipated when he went out, tested out. Like I thought the explosive drills would be nice, but I didn't expect the 4.45 speed. I was kind of expecting him to be in the 4.5 range, but I love it. Change of direction can be a little clunky, not necessarily like the smoothest guy when having to like change direction and whatnot, but that's fine. If you're just working him north and south, I think you're going to be a-okay, and I'm not going to worry too much about that. You can definitely hide some of the things when it comes to Cole Bishop. You can hide the lack of length. You could hide his lack thereof lateral ability, as long as you're just, again, working him downhill, because I really like him when he is coming downhill and just looking to delete somebody. Let's put it that way. Good nose for the football as well. He's had a lot of like momentum turning plays over the last 2 years for Utah. All in all, again, that hard-hitting nature just really reminds me of Major Wright. Really does, especially when he was at what was it, Florida? I think it was Florida. Yeah, Florida. So yeah, man, Cole Bishop, I got him 90th currently on my big board. At number 4, I'm going to pull a rabbit out of my hat. That's right, Dadrion Rabbit Taylor-Demerson out of Texas Tech, a very hot riser during the offseason draft process. Come in at 5'10", 197. So yeah, there are some size limitations. It kind of hurts his versatility and how you may want to use him. But the dude is a hell of a player with honestly a hell of a skill set. First things first, the dude is a good athlete. You could tell already, fast athlete, 4.4, 140, explosive athlete, 38 in the vert. And the dude just flies all over the field. And he also has shown ball skills over the course of his career this past season, 4 pass breakups, 4 interceptions. And especially if you want to get him in the, like as a blitzer, like he's really good blitzing from the slot. 8 pressures and 1 sack this past season. You'd be like, okay, those aren't really high numbers, but I mean, that was only on what? We're talking like 16 pass rushing snaps. So, hey, if you really want to get greedy, be like, hey, man, let's work this guy maybe like Mike Hilton, then you definitely could get after it. Shoot, even L'Jarius Sneed, man, lining him up close to the line of scrimmage and having him go and get after it. However, again, size limitations. You really only could do that like really on passing downs with him. I'm not going to really trust him in run support like you would like a L'Jarius Sneed. But regardless, really showed some stickiness and coverage at the Shrine. You go back to his tape, and it's just there. He displays very good instincts and his ability, again, to read and react, shows a quick trigger, knows when to break on the ball, and it has turned into interceptions. He had one on Aiden Slovis at the Shrine. Also, despite the size, solid tackler, only a 10.2% missed tackle rate. That number probably gets a lot higher in the NFL, but he shows good technique. Are you really going to trust him as a run support? Probably not. You're really getting him for his coverage and his blitzing ability. Regardless, man, I end up being a big fan of his. He has experience in special teams as a gunner and a return man, so you'll like that. You really do. However, when dropping him deep, you really would like to see him, I put here, be more reactive or be more proactive. I have him more as a reactive. Like he gets big-eyed and he will maybe break on double moves, or he'll fall for like quarterback's eye candy and kind of like take a false step, find himself now a step behind in the play. And I'm not saying this is something that happens a ton on his tape, but it is definitely something you notice. Man, what was I trying to... Oh, I remember now. So the metaphor I wanted to use for this, and I couldn't really put it in the overlay because it didn't really make sense, but you know, when it comes to like baseball, like pop flies, and you're taught not to take necessarily that first step forward, but you're taught to kind of like look at it for a second, kind of get an idea where it's going to be, because you start running up immediately and you find you're over underran, and now you're having to backtrack. It's kind of like that. He gets pop fly eyes, so to speak, where he'll take that step and now again he's finds himself a step behind in the play. But all in all, man, I came out of this a big fan. I have Darnell Savage as the comp. More so, it's like rookie year Darnell Savage. And honestly, I think Darnell Savage is going to have a pretty nice bounce back year. There we go. Words are tough, kids. But I think he's going to have a bounce back year under Ryan Nielsen there in Jacksonville. But hey, man, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But I ended up becoming a really big fan of Rabbit out of the Shrine. Went into his tape and was like, yeah, man, I really like this player, especially in a safety class that might not be ideal. At number 3, I have Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, coming in 6'2", 205. And this may come as a surprise because for a lot of people or some people, he has been the number one safety for much of this process. And I mean, I'm going to say he's not far behind the next two guys. He truly, truly isn't. But golly, that testing was abysmal. It was bad. Like, you thought Kamren Kinchens had bad testing. Tyler Nubin's wasn't much better. But what Tyler Nubin has working for him is he definitely looks like a much faster athlete on tape. He's got a bit more length to him compared to Kamren Kinchens, who's working with about an inch shorter arms, and Nubin just has the better wingspan. But I mean, I really do like Nubin because he uses that length and coverage to kind of like steer quarterbacks away from his side. He does a good job of reading the quarterback's eyes, and you know, I thought he was going to be more explosive or test out as more explosive, but it probably just means he's got a quicker trigger and he breaks on the ball a bit faster, or at least anticipates it. And it showed up this year, like 5 interceptions early in the year, man. They were thrown his way, and he was like, golly, well, that was a mistake. But he's really good at disrupting the catch point. This past season, only allowing a 34.5% catch rate, completion rate. When targeted is a phenomenal number. He's flashed the ball skills. He's got, I think, pretty darn good play strength. And he's someone that does a good job filling in the right lanes when coming downhill and taking appropriate angles in the run game. I think he does a really good job of that. He's got an under 10% missed tackle rate, so I do like that as well. And he's a much improved tackler this past season, as you would. And honestly, this goes more for 2022. I put here aggressive tackling style sometimes leads to flags, because sometimes he'll like lead with the crown of his helmet. But I think he did a good job of reeling back on that a little bit this season. There are times where he maybe overruns pursuit angles, but I'm kind of nitpicking here. It really came down to the testing, man. It's like, man, I feel like he's faster on film, but I think a lot of that can contribute to just that good anticipation that he plays with. And he definitely feels like a smoother athlete than he tested out at. Not a guy that really was heavily used as a blitzer at Minnesota, but that's something I think he can do at the next level if asked to. Like, if you're gonna have him working downhill a little bit, does lack that change of direction. So it's like more times than not he has to make the correct read, or he'll find himself out of the play. But all in all, like, I'm a big fan. My comp for him is Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams had better testing. And it's not like he was significantly better testing, but like when healthy, Marcus Williams during his time with the Saints and went on the field for the Ravens, he's someone that was able to patrol as a center fielder because of how good his anticipation was. And I feel like Tyler Nubin could definitely be similar in that regard. At number 2, I have Javon Bullard out of Georgia, coming in at 5'11", 198. And dude, if you see him as a slot, if you see him as a safety, it don't really matter, because I think he'll be able to do both. There will be concerns with his size, and I think they're fair, but he plays a hell of a lot bigger than he is billed out at. The dude plays with that aggression and physicality, and sometimes that does lead to like overrunning ball carriers. That leads to I think it'll lead to more forced missed tackles in the NFL, because I mean, at his size, you know, you're gonna try to lay those licks, and it's not gonna function the same like it did in college. Like, shoot, man, like I really do love Bullard. I think what really made me like fall in love with him, you go back to the college football playoff in 2022, where it was Georgia, Ohio State, and CJ Stroud. He's getting pressured, and he ends up just kind of lobbing one up to the back of the end zone. And Bullard he noticed this, and he just starts flying, ends up laying a nasty blow on Marvin Harrison Jr. to kind of jar the ball out and actually takes him out of the game. And I was just like, golly, man, his change of direction was just phenomenal. He covered so much ground. Oh, golly, dude, really, really made me fall in love with him. But again, plays with that fearless style. You love the change of direction. He's a fiery competitor. He's a guy that can work in the slot. This year, he showed that he can work a more traditional safety role. And I mean, again, you're gonna like this year when playing more of a traditional safety role, you could tell it took him time to get a little more accustomed to it, and he was a little bit more hesitant on what he should do, on what his next move should be. But I mean, as the season went on, that trigger got a little quicker, and I don't think it's going to be that big of a hiccup in the NFL. He does remind me quite a bit of Julian Blackmon, who came into the league out of Utah as this fiery athlete that can cover a lot of ground, wants to be just plays with a fearless style, and doesn't mind putting his nose in the action. Blackmon actually just re-signed with the Colts just a couple of days ago. So I think honestly that's kind of a good comp for him. At number 1, I have Jaden Hicks out of Washington State, coming in at 6'2", 215 pounds. And you just love that build. But on top of that, he's also a very good athlete. That's a big reason why I have him in front of Tyler Nubin. Now, my comp for Jaden Hicks is Deshaun Elliott, and it has everything to do with what type of defender they are when coming downhill. Because Hicks, he'll come downhill with some good burst, some good explosiveness. He does a good job of just shortening that distance between him and the ball carrier, whether that's in the run game or the screen game, RPO game. He does a good job of that because he's always taking good routes. Again, I already mentioned that burst, that explosiveness, and he's not afraid to mix it up and get physical. I love that he's willing to put his nose in the action, and he's a hard hitter, man. He wants to just knock the teeth right out your mouth, but he isn't just good coming downhill. He's also very good in coverage. He's got some legit ball skills. He had a pick 6 earlier this season. He just tracks the ball so well when it's in the air. And then he has the just good vertical ability to contest the catch. He had a 37.5-inch vert at his pro day just a couple of days ago. But dude plays with a big motor. He'll play to and through the whistle. Just his combination of size, athleticism, and versatility, honestly, because of those other two things, just I think kind of makes him the guy in this class, in this safety class. But there is a reason why my number 1 safety is 50th on my big board, because by no means is he a perfect prospect. And now, admittedly, I think this was something that got better this year, but his kind of like his eyes in zone. Sometimes he's slow to read and react. He's just like kind of a tick late. And I thought that was much better this past season. In 2022, he was a bit more enabled to giving up like really big pass plays. I mean, I think you go back to 2022, he had 3 plays where he gave up 65 yards or more. And that was down. It was so much better in 2023. I think we talked about the versatility. I think he could play in the slot, in the box, too high. I'm a little more hesitant if we're talking about him as a center fielder, because I think he's just a little stiff out of his back pedal into his transition. Just when he has to like turn and run to get vertical with pass catchers, he just can be a bit clunky in that regard. And we talked about the ball skills, right? He had a very quiet, by no means is this a bad thing, but he had a very quiet second half of the season. It wasn't like bad. He was like allowing like TDs and big plays, but like the ball skills weren't, the splash plays, I should say, weren't nearly as abundant. But at the end of the day, man, I think he might be the closest thing to like the most complete safety in this class. A guy that, I mean, none of these guys really feel like sure hits, but someone that you probably look 4 years down the line and be like, oh yeah, he's gonna get paid decently somewhere else, or be retained by his team on a second contract. You're gonna feel good about him being a starting safety in the league. But let me know who are some of your favorite safeties in the comment section below. If you want more draft content, fun fact, I got more draft content. I'm doing my final position rankings for each position. That seems a little redundant, but you know what I mean. You can check out those videos down here. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.